Good day. Yeah, I guess good afternoon by this point. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, Matt basically gave good enough introduction, I think. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. So sorry for the late start, but it's kind of Guyanese time, so I guess it's your introduction to Guyanese culture. It is a thing actually when we organize parties and stuff. I'll tell my friends to come 10 o'clock American time, 12 o'clock Guyanese time, and they'll come at 12, regardless of whether or not you tell them to. All right, so yeah, the Black Caiman project. This is well, I guess the intro. How do I do? All right, perfect. So yeah, I want to start with who am I? Just Matt kind of gave a good introduction, but yeah, so I'm actually a real Guyanese person. Usually for a lot of people, I'm probably the first Guyanese they've met. So a lot of my time overseas is always explaining. First of all, not in Africa, is Northern South America. So not Ghana. And it's a good reason why I don't sound like I am Ghanaian. It's to the right of Venezuela, to the left of Suriname, to the north of Brazil. But we're also not a Latin American country. We're actually a Caribbean country. We never occupied by Spanish, so we don't speak Spanish. We speak English, and we're very much in Caribbean culture. I graduated from the University of Guyana in 2014, degree in biology. So a general option, which is also the only option. University, it's a small university. Coming here has been pretty interesting. Actually, the place is so big. But yeah, especially the challenge of having Caribbean parents is I explain exactly what it is that I do because I'm not a lawyer or a doctor. So I've come up with so far just describe myself as somewhere between a homeless person and a biologist. Because I basically just bum around going from project to project, doing whatever I can get my hands on. I've been doing that for about 5 or 6 years now because I started actually 2 years into my undergraduate degree. Actually, 2 years into my undergraduate degree at UG, and since then, fieldwork's kind of, or like, well, I guess research in biology has been kind of popular. I just keep doing it, and but it's taken me to the nice places. I've seen lots of the country, and oh no, I left that in there. Anyway, so but yeah, I mean, as Matt said, I've worked with birds, large mammals, frogs and reptiles, in a variety of habitats. It's one of the most amazing things about working in biology, especially in Guyana. Like a lot of people in Guyana, there's only most of the people in Guyana live on about 8% of the land on the coast. Most people have actually never seen the interior. It's very expensive to get there. It's also very hard. There are not a lot of parks and easy roads. And getting just to the border town with Brazil is a 2-day journey, a very long time, and you're usually left pretty beat up at the end. And I've gotten to go to some really cool places. Most importantly, I've gotten to work with community members. And one of the things, oh yeah, I was going to say, think about doing a degree at UG, so sorry, you also. Mike's just welcome. But yeah, I mean, one of the most important things that I've learned probably over the last couple of years is that conservation products need local people. And I've gotten to observe all the different forms of working with local people, all the way down from just having local systems as guides, to just showing us where things are, with up to research systems and having people, actively participate in the project, capacity development, local scientists, so having local people work with us on more of the same level, actually actively doing research with us, and also indigenous leaders. And Guyana was really quite glad to be in a country where indigenous people, I mean, it's not perfect, indigenous people are very vocal and they're given the opportunity to speak, and there are lots of really strong people that I've been able to learn from as well, as much as with the scientists as well. And so, yeah, nature's tied to indigenous life, and so is conservation. So is the work that we do. We couldn't do nearly any of it without the people we work with. So it's important. So lots of descriptions you hear about Guyana. These two at the front there are the most common. You hear Guyana is all this pristine, untouched forest. There's so much of it. Not a lot of wildlife that is in a dire situation. But it also begs the question: is that definition really that true? And when you're flying over Guyana plane, it's amazing because you just see nothing but forest for miles. When you're actually on the ground, you actually come to understand that there are tons of people throughout Guyana. Indigenous communities spread all the way through, and they're fantastic to work with. And there's a great diversity of people. Not only do we have, in theory, 6 races. Apparently, we count Europeans and Portuguese separate. Sorry, any Portuguese people here. I don't know why we do that. But in addition to that, there are 9 indigenous groups. Most of them have very distinct languages, very distinct cultures. They all interact very interestingly. Some groups don't like each other together. Some groups have had long interaction with other with conservation scientists. Others have interacted with loggers and miners, and it is very interesting. It's a very diverse landscape. But a lot of people are very vocal. They're very a lot of communities have taken land. To me, it's a great place to work, and I love working with local people in Guyana. But I want to specifically focus in on the Rupununi region, the Upper to Upper region, Region 9. Huge region. It's a region Matt's done a lot of his work. It's an infectious place. If you go there, there's a high chance you'll ride off into distance and never show up again. There are people who've done that. I'm not really not joking. But so it's huge. It's in the bottom southwest of Guyana. It's the region that mostly borders Brazil, and it's home to quite a few people. And big savanna that sort of continues to the Llano savanna in Venezuela, and it's home to a lot of people, of really great people, really interesting culture. And from mainly three groups, there's Makushi, which is to the north of the Rupununi, Wapishana, which is central southern Rupununi, and Waiwai communities, which are all the way in the bottom of Guyana. The Waiwais actually they've made some pretty big news in Guyana not too long ago because our protected area system is still being developed now, and the Waiwais officially formed a massive it is Guyana's first community-owned conservation area that has been signed on with the Protected Areas Commission. So yeah, I would love to go one day, but I haven't been yet. It's very expensive. I gotta get plane. But Rupununi is cool, and it's interesting because it's a population density of 0.42 people per square kilometer. Villages are really wide, spread out. Savannah floods, so I guess that's kind of a necessity for villages to be far out. More on that to come. But so yeah, there's very pastoral subsistence villages. And one of the realities of working in indigenous communities, at least in Guyana, you can learn that there are really limited jobs and opportunities and income services within communities. That's true of Guyana as a whole. Like Georgetown can be sort of a sink for everyone from everywhere. It's the only economic center of the country. There's only about 150 to 350,000 people, depending on where you draw the border of the city, and everyone has to go there to work. And so within the community, there are only some jobs. You can be a village leader or a tushao. You can be a health worker. You could be some communities, one of maybe 3 to 5 teachers. And beyond that, there are really no other jobs for people in communities. So it's a challenge for community members as well. If you go out and you get a degree, what are you going to do? What do you do when you come back to this? And so, but that situation is also improving. Their decentralizing administration in Guyana to the regional level. And so they're building capacity within these regions to start people and manage their own resources. It's very hard to run the country. So, that being said, though, the reality is that many indigenous communities are still dependent on their natural resources. For me, one of the points I remember is when I attended a regional meeting, the communities that border the Panthera Mountains protected area. One of the leaders who's very conservation-minded and also very vocal stood up and said, well, like it or not, I had to catch a bird and sell it to be able to pay for gas to attend this meeting. And so it's a reality of life that people we're still relying on their natural resources, and you have to but the thing is, there's also on top of that there are economic drivers, cultural changes, lots of changes in the region. Now, you don't just have to catch food for feed your family, but now you have to give your children school books, school clothes. You have to get uniforms, and also we know that there is a need for income, a lot more commercial harvest of resources, and so a lot of the livelihoods within villages still, hunting. I want to focus for this mainly on fishing, farming, and also some communities are involved with logging and mining. So now let's shift the focus onto the black caiman. It's found also in Rupununi, the largest aquatic predator in South America, once endangered, and that was due to their trade in skins. But that was at least in Guyana, they were legally protected around the time of the 60s, around 60s or 70s. And so since then, their populations have been in recovery. And lots of major events there. This is the discovery of a large population in Brazil. Now they're listed as least concerned, but more importantly, conservation dependent. And they live in a river system, which also happens to be where people live. And this shared use of this river system leads, of course, to conflict. There may be competition for declining fish resources. And just onto that point as well, the Rupununi itself may, in addition to overuse of fish resources, there may be climate effects as well, because there's a lot of talk about the fact that the Rupununi actually becomes a wetland for just about half the year. The whole thing floods, becomes like an ocean. It's really wonderful. And fish cross over from the Amazon into the Guyana watershed, which drains into the Esquimalt, so it's a bit different. And that's supposed to replenish fish stocks. And that doesn't happen as often as it does anymore. It's very unpredictable. There was a massive flood recently last year, but before then, it hadn't happened for about 5 years, which is rare. And even villages were worried about their water resources, simple things like that. How are we gonna? Our wells aren't filling, so we're worried we're gonna have to ship water in from the coast, and that's gonna take ages. So yeah, the fish resources may be declining due to climate change as well, in addition to pressures that are happening, and then also attacks not just on people but on dogs. People hunt, their dogs go into the water. Caiman sees a dog, goes, oh, small, delicious. Oh, got that. So the result of that is human conflict, and that may increase over time as the population recovers, the human population, and then the fish population increases due to all the things that I've mentioned. And so, this slide goes over all of the research that happened in Guyana. And to put it in a basic summary, there's been actual caiman population ecology research in that general area. Adam Rosenblatt did caiman dispersal. He also did caiman diet. Peter Taylor, who's this guy from I guess, an American guy. He came and established Caiman House, and they did caiman monitoring as well. And Iwokrama and another project, Cobra, they did some community caiman counts in the area. But but while these people have recorded instances of conflict, no one's exactly examined it. And so that's where we decided we'd come in with this project to get a better idea of the picture. So our study site were these 4 communities, and they all are very close to Rupununi River, which we're similar along that line. So they're all communities that use the river. They're mostly Makushi. They have about 400 to 800 people, villages, depending on which village you're in. Iwokrama is a really interesting place because they have Caiman House, which is established by Peter Taylor in this project. And Caiman House is community-owned ecotourism. People come and Caiman House can't really, or they have a hard time funding their caiman research activity. So how it works now is tourists come and they pay for the boats, the salaries for all the research assistants and drivers, and that enables them to get out, and the tourists get to see something really interesting, participate in science from that is with indigenous people role. And so they're, it's the village members themselves feel some sort of ownership of the Caiman House. Karanambu is another interesting place. It's a really famous place. It's what really put Guyana on the map, especially for tourism. It's a really famous person called Diane McTurk, who authors, and she may have been, the first person in Guyana to promote ecotourism and such a popular thing now. And she's long had a great relationship with the communities around her. She's now deceased, but very recently. But so Caiman House has a long impact on surrounding communities. But yeah, it also this study site here, or this series of study sites, generally covers the same area that Peter Taylor and Caiman House team also has done their population studies. So we had 3 main questions, which is, first of all, what is the intensity of conflict? How much conflict is there in Guyana? What are the types of conflict? Because is it over fishing impacts? Is it over perceived threat of caiman. Do people receive or perceive benefits from caiman-based seed? Because even if they receive benefits, do they know that it comes from the ecotourism? And then do those benefits encourage more positive attitudes to caiman? So we used the value attribute behavior model, and so we wanted to examine, people their value caiman, how that affects their attitudes, and that the combination of that affects their behavior. So our questions examined fishing practices, experiences with caiman, whether positive or rare, knowledge of caiman, and benefits gained from caiman. So our structure, we use a mouthful here, but we used an open-ended semi-structured format. And that, I think, was probably the best considering the situation that we're in. Because, first of all, Rupununi almost never sees, well, not never, they receive tourists, but not a lot. So, and people aren't really accustomed to being interviewed very structured. Like, for instance, one thing I can definitely confirm to you is that people do not understand range questions. On a on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about this? I've done surveys in the past where people have just said, yeah, feel good. So, 1 being the lowest, 10 being you feel great, 5 being neutral, how do you feel? Yeah. So with this kind of more open-ended survey and also more of a conversation style survey, which I think is also suited for the culture of Guyana, where people like to sit down and talk, have a gaff. It take a while, but I think it's also more personal when people feel that they're more willing to share things with you, and it doesn't feel like a quiz, it doesn't feel like they should be giving you the right answer. Especially considering the Rupununi, where there's been a lot of conservation focus. People, they also know what they should say versus what they really feel. And so the idea behind doing sort of conversation and having, being able to change the order of the question you ask if they mention something, follow up, it definitely allowed for it to feel more natural. At least when I was doing interviews, that's the way it felt. And also, some people, especially older people, speak solely with Fushi. So sometimes questions will not be interpreted the way you think, and that's the type you're looking for. So we're able to explain them, translate if necessary, and also to gather more information. If somebody says, they mentioned that their dog was attacked, you can, follow up where, when, and then, if people don't have an idea of time, season might have been important, so you can use wet season, dry season, high water, low water. So yeah, it definitely allows us to gather a lot more interesting information when it was possible. So I had, that is me, I had 2 main assistants with me the whole way. They're both from the Rupununi. And it was actually a very interesting experience for me because I come from Georgetown, right on the coast. Very mixed, but I have indigenous roots, but I also did not grow up in a village. So the culture is actually very different. I didn't really understand a lot of things, and also I have the tendency to talk really quickly, and people sometimes do not understand the thing I say. So my 2 assistants, one was from Lesem. She studied in Brazil. She actually studied psychology. So she's very, very well educated. The other guy was from one of the villages, and he was also fairly well read. And so how it would work is I would say something, then Alyssa would translate what I said into something more understandable, and then Howard would then further translate that into Tropilunch or Luigi if needed, and then our assistants would then understand. And it was a great team. It worked to me. I think it worked excellently. And they were also very involved in the process. I would, if I wanted to make a decision, I would also ask them for their input. Because they understood the way things worked a lot better than I did. I also spent some time outside of Guyana, so I can sometimes, in some ways, stick up for me, but I can be not very Guyanese sometimes. They help for them to remind me, just so you know. We also employed 2 people from the village, and this provided employment, training, and also, with village leaders, with each Tushao, you're required to have permission from every village that you're working with. The Tushao has to understand what it is that you're doing, and they also have to have some input in the process, and they had to be able to do that. And then they also suggested interviewers and requested both one male, one female. And I have to say, like, sometimes, I try to be very progressive, but sometimes it can be easy to forget. Alyssa definitely, and this is why it was good having like this mixed team. Alyssa reminded me, we need to have another woman on the team because it's just good to have that input, and also women in the village might feel more comfortable responding to her. And so it's like that where I'm, very willing to admit, yeah, I didn't really remember that, and that's why it's good to have a good diverse team, and that really helped. And so really, truly, this is, like I'm presenting, but it's not the work of one person, the work of the entire team. But yeah, we also had a day-long training session. This was a very interesting process. Every village we did this. The first day it was get to the village. It took a while. Speak to Tuchel. Make sure he's okay with things again. Make sure he's reminded of what exactly we plan on doing, how we plan on doing it. We can get people who are willing to work with us, depending on who we recommend. Sometimes, we ask if got a recommendation for somebody. And then that sometimes took a while. Sometimes we got people who said, yeah, I'll come. And then, next day just don't show up. So that's just how things work in Rupununi, and that's the joy of field work there. Why things come up. Thank goodness it was not my first rodeo. It would have been very difficult. But so as when we were actually doing the training, it was started this more of a two-way conversation where I explained all the questions, and as I was doing that, I'd ask them, so, how do you think this would be interpreted? What kind of answers would people in the village give? Sometimes we have to, slightly adjust questions, even between villages. And by the way, these villages are not very far apart. They're also from the same indigenous group, and they're also, people are related. People see each other all the time. It's a big place, but somehow people show up. Matt's showing up in the room. I've been there doing something fairly separate, and we run into each other. So it's a pretty amazing place like that. But even still with that, like, villages are very different for some, for interesting reasons. And so we'd have to adjust questions sometimes because something would mean something entirely separate in a different village. And then also, what's also came up in like the first day I was doing the training, after doing everything, the quiz is also an idea of one of the assistants I had, who came up to me and said, I'm not sure anybody actually understood what you said. So then we had a short question and answer segment where we realized they actually didn't understand anything I said, and we had to do it all over again. And so that became a part of the whole thing. And then we did mock surveys where they'd sit down and we'd do a couple of surveys between each other. If anyone unfortunately walked in, we survey them, and so it just gave them a bit of hands-on experience delivering the survey, seeing how it felt. And any questions if there was something that didn't understand, or like a situation didn't understand, how to respond to. So sampling was sort of a challenge. I probably remember this. I said, "Ben, what do I do here?" Because houses in the Rupununi start to just come about. Sometimes villages come about like that. Some satellite villages come about because some guy just went across there and decided, screw this village, I'll go here. I like this spot. And then other people looked at that spot and went, I'll go there. And so there's not a lot of planning to these villages. So like I first thought, all right, maybe I might do it by roads because the village is a nice set of roads. And then we all walked down a road and we met at the same point because the road just turned and they came together. So in response to all this, we decided that we would do, because the villages are really scattered, because you can easily stay in one part of the village and get enough surveys to move on without actually getting to these far out spots. We decided to do it by household, so one person for each household, force us to get out of the village center. And we would also use a map. Either we'd ask the village leaders if they had a map. Sometimes they didn't, sometimes they didn't. One village leader spent an hour, I didn't actually do that, an hour drawing a map of the entire village, every single house marked out with names. It was wonderful. It's great. But yeah, this approach I think worked because it helped us sample throughout the village, and it was true. The people in different parts of villages sometimes use different ponds to fish, have different experiences. So we'll have more on that to come. So in total, we got 153 surveys done. Average age of 37.9. More males than females, but in these communities, they're still very traditional gender roles. The men will go further out to fish or farm. The women generally will take care of children. But a lot of my ideas about villages were also challenged during the survey as well, because a lot of women also fished. Almost every woman that we interviewed in Iwokrama at least definitely fished. And so women do also play a role, but sometimes some women were afraid to ask the survey. Of course, me. The other girls had way more luck about this. Some husbands asked their wives instead to do the survey. I don't think you do. But at the moment, surveys are being transcribed. So this is where the hard data fall apart, and we'll start talking about some of the ideas that I have about the results and from the data collection process, and going over some of the interviews we've collected so far. So the first thing is the conflict seems to be seasonal, and to me this kind of makes sense. And I'm really looking forward to testing whether this is true. But attacks both on people seems to be limited to dry season. Rupununi, it goes. I mean, some of these rivers go from feet of water down to a trickle, and what that means is that there's in the dry season, like in the middle of the dry season, there's very little water. And so it may mean that there's more chance for contact with caiman. Sometimes people drag nets through and they'll step on one, and that can result in attack. Also, children swimming, there's more chance of them having contact. But fishing-related conflict happens more in the wet season. And the wet season can get pretty tough for villages. And these are villages, again, relying mostly on their natural resources, mostly fishing. And so I've heard some comparisons that you'll spend a couple hours catching in the dry season, you'll spend a couple of days trying to get in the wet season. And so people will take more risky fishing behavior for many reasons. Some people have tried weighing their nets down so they're not above water, but that doesn't work because the caiman just feel the fish struggling in the net, and they'll still go for them. But people will try these things. And yeah, one of the things that came out with is one of the things I've been thinking about is, how do we, with what I'm seeing so far, how do I even begin to think about what we could potentially do to mitigate conflict? But a lot of the things that I could come up with are things that people know already. People will take the risks because if there is a chance that caiman might attack my net, but there's also a chance that I might get some fish. So yeah, I think they're easy recommendations I could come up with, but they're not things that people don't know. What I also found is they're more or less neutral to negative perceptions. So caiman, I think this could be due to a couple of reasons. I think first of all, there's never a news article that says caiman saves small child from drowning. So there's not a lot of things people associate good things about caiman with. But I think a lot of people don't mind and they'll feel away. Also, Rupununi, the Meschach culture is kind of reserved by it, and so people don't really express whether they. I don't think anyone will ever say like I really love something. But yeah, I like that. Okay. But yeah, a lot of people say I don't mind it. I don't feel no way about them. But the really interesting thing for me is a lot of people mention, or at least a couple of people, the master of fish. Like that's the name for caiman sometimes. People say, where caiman fish there, which is Guyanese Creole, but where caiman are, fish are. Which also means people may go actively trying to fish where caiman are, because that means that's where the fish are. I'm not really sure where that leads though, because it may, positive feelings about caiman, maybe, but also, also conflict. But one of the things that definitely came through is that ecotourism benefits may actually mean more positive attitudes. One guy, much to my great joy, even though I tried not to show it, he probably smiled a little. He actually said, "Wow, when tourists come, we get money, they buy my fish." And he did actually say, when they come to see the caiman itself, he gets money, still buy his fish. And a lot of people actually did show pride and ownership in caiman house. We had a question asking, if there's something you would improve about caiman house, what would it be? Many villagers in Iwokrama, I got the impression that they felt like personal value in it. That people say, Matt, it's a little dirty there. I don't really like how dirty it is. If I would improve anything, I'd clean it up. My yard feels a little dirty, but this is what people see when they come to our village. So I think And that to me is a bit different from other ecotourism places in Guyana where people don't seem to really care because it's just not somebody else's place. That's just there. But this is a community-owned place. This is a place that they personally they own. It's a representation, I guess, not just of the village but of themselves. And so they feel a personal stake in it. But unfortunately, and this is the surprising bit, the ecotourism benefits at the moment are not spread well beyond a single village, or maybe perceived, beyond a single village, because people from our villages, while some people may sell fish, to Caiman House sometimes they may sell craft, people definitely weren't, at least, they may have heard of Caiman House, but they didn't really know what exactly they did. In fact, one guy was asked me what they did, and of course we'll continue the survey and afterwards I told him they released him and he seemed a little disappointed. so yeah, but even within a singular village, to me it seemed that a lot of people in Iwokrama itself didn't really think they got any benefit from Caiman House and village related things. But the good thing about Caiman House too is that they invest a lot in the village. So there's a library, which is fantastic. Almost every child in Iwokrama goes to the library with books. This helps because there's not that many things to do in the village. They can't be on their phones all the time. But don't read every day. Children love it. You see droves of children come out of school, go to the library. The Caiman House also has a pump, will pump water up. And now that there's less water in the village, tons of people will go there. And so yeah, I guess to me, a lot of people did see benefits. But that's definitely not true. Even the village is just half an hour away. But that being said, Guyana doesn't have a large ecosystem. So it may be that if there were more tourists coming, then they could do more, or they could or Caiman House could do more. But realistically, Caiman House is probably doing as much as it can right now. Some villages actually once said they wanted Caiman House, regardless of whether or not they knew what it was the Caiman House did. Some people definitely, but yeah, you know what? Suggestion Caiman House. We got Caiman House. Tell us that one up here. One of the things that stood out to me was the employees of ecotourism facilities, whether or not it was Caiman House, they had a closer and deeper connection with nature and surroundings, animals they worked with. There was a great example, Howard, who's one of the guys I worked with. He lost his brother to a caiman when he was really young. When he was about 7, his brother was 13, I think he was. His brother was killed, I think, right in front of him or something. Yeah, it was really intense. He hated caiman the whole time. And then when he began to work at Caiman House, his attitude changed. Now, I spoke to him for a long time about this. It was a really interesting, very candid sort of conversation to have. But he was saying, I don't like caiman, and I don't think I'll ever come around to like them. He also doesn't hate them. He's also really interested in them, and he's very quick to correct people, which is something I actually have to ask him not to do. In the middle of the interview, if anyone says, that they want to kill a caiman, you cannot tell them that you can't, try to change their views. But he's really quick to do that, even though he lost his brother. And not just that, though. Just 2 years ago, Howard was actually attacked by a caiman. He was dragging his net, and he stepped in one net. Did a fair bit of damage, and he still appreciates them. So, yeah, and this is something I think on an anecdotal basis of perceived throughout. Iwokrama, Tarnambu, all the facilities, the people who work there are really invested in nature and in their surroundings. And I think it's also because there's some degree of local pride to it to show people, this is where I live, and people appreciate that. So, yeah, it's pretty great, I think. So on a village basis, these villages, they aren't very far apart. Iwokrama and Katoka is a 13-minute drive. People will travel, people will walk. There was a wedding in Iwokrama. Half the village of Katoka was there. Half the Kaimat and Masara as well. Single wedding. So people interact a lot. So just a quick, village by village, what my main thoughts for each were. In Iwokrama, quite a few people said they don't like caiman because of tourism income. Katoka, few people really actually knew much about Caiman House and what it does. That was, incredibly close by. And also, people from Katoka will come through Iwokrama because Katoka floods. So when they wet season, hard to get transportation from Katoka out to Latam, where people have to go to be able to buy supplies. And so it'll actually come through Iwokrama. It'll take a boat to the Iwokrama landing and then take the road from there. And even till then, you kind of have to pass through Caiman House, have to see it. A lot of people didn't really know. Um, but I will say too that younger people definitely knew about Caiman House before because of the school reading program. Sometimes people from Katoka will send their children, or else they have internet, so they can do research, get on the internet, do their homework. So yeah, a lot of young people didn't know about Caiman House. Other people, not really. Masara was fascinating. The whole Masara Kaimata complex, I call it, because Kaimata is actually a satellite village of Masara. There's not a lot of people. There are less than 50 households in the village. And it's like a 15-minute drive, which doesn't really look like it, but I guess it's easier terrain to pass. But Masara was, to me, when the whole ongoing debates of intrinsic versus extrinsic value of species, Masara couldn't be further on the intrinsic end. Like a lot of the interpretations, just the basic interpretations of the questions we asked, like, okay, like what do caiman, what caiman do, or what people's knowledge about caiman, they would respond with questions like, well, what can we use caiman for? What are caiman good for? How can I personally earn something or have a gain through caiman? The opposite was true in Kaimata. People liked caiman. They didn't mind having them around. But again, this may be due to how Kaimata has had quite a few people who have worked with ecotourism industries. Masara started a very closed off village, and it seemed to that just seems to be like a very utilitarian approach to the class. Like people didn't want to respond to the survey. There's also, this project. How is this project going to benefit me personally? Whereas people in a lot of villages otherwise are very forthcoming and willing to share regardless, which is not, positive or negative, just the way things are and the way people approach the thing or to the experience are. Yeah, so the basic path forward, the first three are kind of set in stone, which is transcribe and analyze data, working hard on. And then potentially after doing that, is expand the study, use the open-ended answers to make quantitative survey, and also based on questions that come up with data entry and the basic analysis, try to come up with add more questions, hopefully that can answer the key questions you get from the data you're seeing. And then after that, return to communities and present the findings. And where it gets a bit more in just general thoughts. I was thinking too that we could try to gather, instead of presenting just these are my recommendations of how you could offset conflict, is after presenting the results to the villages, then ask them, based on what you've just seen, based on the things that we found, what are ways that you think that we can work in offsetting this kind of conflict? And then, of course, from that, I would present those findings, suggestions, results, everything to Caiman House, and basically say we'll be willing to work with them forward, but that it's a process that they should as well. This is the team. It's part of the team. Lots of people worked with. Two people from the team actually were from the University of Guyana. Shuang Yang and Ariane Harris, all the way over to the right. Alyssa, Geraldine, Marvel, Richardson within the white shirt, Monica, and that's Tanisha, and Howard, striped shirts, top right. Work with people, you'll remember their names. I don't remember anyone's name, so. But I mean, yeah, I had the greatest time working with them. They're all great people, and also all of them contributed a lot to this project. Whether it was just simple, sitting down at night, talking about how they felt about interviews with them, and then saying some things, and also some funny stories. And there was a lot. Howard is an excellent person to spend time with the field with. Alyssa's not. She grew up in Latin, so she grew up outside of the community, but also in. And so she was also learning quite a bit. She'd also grown up more in South, where there's Wapishana, learning a bit more of the Makushi side and her psychology background, brought mixed things. And she was also very observant. Like so she came to me a day and she said, "Hey, have you seen what Howard does? Like he'll go up to somebody and then they'll just stand there 5 minutes looking about, looking around, and then somebody says, then the conversation starts and the story starts and Howard doesn't shoot himself. They'll just stand there for 5 minutes." And so we were like, well, I guess it's, I guess it must be something cultural. Has to be. I mean, no wonder people look so uncomfortable when I just go and say, "Hi, how do you do? What kind of? Let's go." So we asked Howard, and he looked really confused. The whole thing. Oh yeah, I just don't know what to say. just stood there for 5 minutes, just looking around. So it was great. We had great things like that. We learned some Kushi words, very interesting time in the field. So yeah, working with people, live in your teams. How to involved in the process too. Really makes things easier. Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge, Jessica Zhu, the great UF students, Matt, Ben, very involved in the project. The local institutions in Guyana and also, their own EPA, which gave me first of all permission to do the research. So that was very nice of them. Conservation International helped and stuff, kind of helped integral to the process. Iwokrama as well provided lots of inputs and things. They have lots of experience working with Makushi people. Carnambo, University of Guyana, etc. Oh, I also want to put in a bit on the whole UG-UF partnership. So thank you very much, guys, for that whole thing. Not very good person, but I mean, for people like me, one of the reasons I think I'm still in the field is still working, or at least trying to figure out ways around in biology. It's from the first opportunities I got as a student when I was still there, and because from someone from Guyana, being a biologist still feels a very long way off. There are not a lot of people you can look to and say, "Oh, that's someone I can actually do this." And so for me, when I was in UG, there was just about no one. So for a lot of the time, when I started my biology degree, just the idea that I was going to do medicine, then I realized slowly that I actually didn't like that, and I wasn't sure what to do, so I just stuck with this years ago. Then I got in the field, and now here I am. So these simple opportunities can be really great for people. I mean, even if you go to the field and you discover you don't like field work, that's still a very great thing to learn. At least you tried something, and you know that it's not something you're doing, which is more than many can say. So now with all these things that are going on, I feel like there's this incredible energy at UG with a lot of younger students demanding more from their lecturers, demanding more from the university, trying to go out there, seek opportunities. When I was in UG, I was probably the only person doing these things. In some ways, it felt a bit discouraging almost, because then if no one else wanted to do this, then where am I going with this? But now, I went out in the field with Ariane, went out in the field with Shuang, fantastic people, super motivated, and there are tons more of them at UG, all pushing really hard and trying to carve a field that essentially doesn't really exist that much in Guyana. So these opportunities are really important for students, because it gives them something, at least at a very bare minimum, to look forward to and say, well, they don't have the exact full plan, but there's a step in the road that I can work towards. And from there, I can keep going a bit more. And yeah, so the first batch of grant awardees was awarded recently, which is actually currently the only, at least for biology, I can definitely confirm it's the only research grant that is available at University of Guyana. It comes from the UF-UG partnership, which is a lot more money than we can do. So it is fantastic. So thank you very much. That is my talk.